Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG decklists and, oh dear Christian. So here we have a true Draco first place list, recent UK regional, over 150 players. This is nuts. So strange to see Draco come back, especially in this particular form. Into the meta game. Will it be popular over the coming months? We'll just have to see. And right at the time when YuGiOh has come out, so you're not going to suffer from those window problems. Let's take a look at the list then. So triple Amano, 1 Dynamite, triple Ignis, 1 Majesty, 1 Card of Demise, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Draco Phoenix, 1 Diagram, 2 Chalice, 3 Mystic Mine, 3 Desires, 3 Duality, 1 Terraforming, 3 Heritage, 1 Upstart, 3 Evenly, 1 Imperial Order, 1 Metaverse, 3 True Draco Apocalypse, and 1 True King's Return for the main deck. I think the key features here are obviously it is a going second list. You've got the Evenlys and the Mystic Mines main decks. Because he's playing Triple Desires, you do have to bump up the count of the Disciples, and you know that's potentially why there's the True King's Return in here as well. There's also a little bit of fear of the back row there with the Cosmic Cyclones as well. Looking at the extra deck, yes, there is indeed an extra deck. So if you are blinding second as Christian was, then you don't want your opponent to think that you're playing Draco. Definitely not, because then they're just going to set up a board which is indestructible. And will just be able to play around all of your effects. However, if they don't know what you're playing and they think that you're probably playing something like Invoked, maybe they're just going to set up Disrupts, which would stop your Alistair. So this extra deck has Chimeritic Fortress Dragon, Interior Exterio, Last Warrior from Another Planet. We have Crystal Zero Lancer, Gaia Dragon, Utopia the Lightning, 1 normal Utopia, 1 Volcasaurus, 1 Ultimate Falcon, Borreload, Borosword, Cerberus Phoenix, a Freezodon, and a Flower Cardian Light Flare. Now you're probably wondering, hey YuGiOh, why are there so many cards that I can't actually summon with my Draco engine? Well, it's obviously because Christian was siding Waking the Dragon. If we look at the rest of the side deck, triple Inspector Border and triple Sphere Mode, so fully prepared to just normal summon and stop the opponent from actually playing the game here. And then a bunch of traps too, so we've got Dimensional Barrier. This one is really interesting to me. Every now and again someone brings this up and puts it into a deck and it makes it through to Top Cut. I think it's one of these cards that is heavily underrated, because if you look at the majority of meta decks, it's hard to sort of go, oh, this hits like everything, whereas if you look at the decks that it does hit, it hits them extremely well. Then triple Solemn Judgment. If you're made to go first, you do have to be able to stop their Evenlys and their Lightning Storms that they now have. 2 There Can Be Only One, and 2 Waking the Dragon. Of course, this is for Lightning Storms, for Twin Twisters, both very, very popular choices at the moment. And you can just deal with a bunch of stuff by just going, hey, you know what, I've got an Ultimate Falcon now, or I've got an Interior Exterior now, you just cannot beat me. So that is it for the list itself, but we do have extra information from Christian here. We'll kick things off with the siding strategy. So, for against Spiral, we have the Judgments, Borders, and Waking coming in when going first, and when you're going second, the Wakings still come in. They do have the ability to, you know, sleeper away your back row, so if you set a Waking and they sleeper it, they're really going to be in some trouble there. It looks like the stuff that's coming out is generally, you know, non-engine stuff as you'd expect. It's the sort of removal in the form of the Evenlys, or some of the sort of surrounding cards like the Imperial Order, which is just, you know, a blowout when you go first against the right deck, but just not very good against the other decks. For Lunalight Time Thief, we can see once again Judgments, Borders, and Waking all coming in when going first, and the same siding strategy for going second, except you're only putting in the 2 Sphere Modes here instead of the 3. They can actually play around your Sphere Mode as well, so maybe that's one reason why you don't want to actually put it in. Whereas Spiral generally has to set up a big board, because I think the sort of smallest good board they make is like Appaloosa backed up by a Phoenix or a Cerberus, depending on what they're going for, and then also backed up by a Sleeper. So that kind of board, you can still Sphere Mode it, and they don't really have a way around it. For the heroes though, Small changes for going first with the dimensional barriers coming in, and there can be only ones coming in as well. It really limits them with those ones. You do have to sacrifice a little bit of your consistency there with some of the side outs, unfortunately. And for going second, very similar to the other decks. For Salamangrate, for going first, again, there can be only one's going to put a lot of pressure on your Salamangrate opponents, and Amano doing significantly less here. There's actually a comment from him later on this one. And then for going second, it's kind of similar to going first because the deck is slow enough that you can just outpace it with that. So for the rounds that he played, it was an 8-round event because, you know, over 150 players, and he won every single matchup, so no losses here. Round 1 against Mystic Mindburn, obviously that's going to be a win. You can pop all the stuff that would actually stop you and then just win anyway. Round 2 against Danger Blue Eyes, pretty interesting. We've seen this come up actually in a few American events, I believe, where it's done extremely well. 2-0 win there again. Round 3 against Salamangrate, a little bit harder, so 2-1 here. Round 4 against Moonlight Time Thief. This was against Alec, I believe, from TKB on stream. 2-0 win here, so sorry Alec. Round 5 against Spiral Scrap, 2-1 win. Round 6 against Mekk-Knight Invoked, a 2-1 win. Round 7 against Moonlight Time Thief, a 2-1 win. And finally, Round 8 against Salamangrate, another 2-1 and a win. So for the extra insights that he offered. So first off, I asked him whether it was built to go first or second, and obviously he said, this deck is built to blind second, because basically the deck lost a lot of consistency, and going first decks made fairly reasonable boards, but nowhere near enough to completely shut you out of the game. Also, the top decks can't really afford to main back row destruction due to the chances of bricking, so it gives this deck an opportunity to slip under the radar. The extra deck is basically just to conceal the fact that you're on Draco because of Lightning Storms, Twin Twisters and Cyclones being really important cards for that event. He decided to play the Awaken the Dragons. So, because he's going second, the 6th card allows him to actually gain a little bit of the consistency that Draco lost, and if he's forced to go first, then he has the sort of combo of Amano Mine, because if you pair that up with like an Order or some Draco monsters to push and stop any OTKs, then you're pretty much set. After siding, if he does go first, mainly against Salamangrate, that's normally his end board tends to be like Amano with Mystic Mine, or just Border with some protection with Apocalypse, Judgment, Awakening, that kind of thing. After game 1, against decks like Spiral and Moonlight Time Thief, he's basically just siding in most of his going first cards because they usually see, the opponent usually sees it evenly and make you go first, and sometimes that can really end up being a blowout, so you have to be able to stop that. The win con for this deck, well, it's pretty much normal summon Amano or activate Mystic Mine. Resolving Awakening the Dragon is pretty cute too. For the most part, you just sort of try and keep Amano on the board, protected by the Apocalypse. The Mine doesn't really hurt you because all of the Draco spells turn it off anyway, and Order does hurt you a little bit too, but you don't have to worry about it too much in general because it just, you know, you have a lot of tribute summons here. Your opponent will always, or well, nearly always, try to make a push, and it sort of drains their resources by the point at which you're generally further ahead because of all of your stun cards. The Draco cards are only really to apply the rest of the pressure once Amano or Border have done their job. The hardest matchup, he says, was Salamangrate, because he didn't think that the deck was going to be as good or as well represented, so he was underprepared for it. With no main deck judgments, this version of the deck really struggles because of Rage being so powerful against Amano Mine. Other harder matchups are probably like the other good going second decks like Mekk-Knight Invoked or Dinos, because if they blind second, then their OTK is a lot better than what you have with this one. Secondly, you're the only going first play pre-side is just the Amano Mine combo, which is just not very good, and surprisingly Shinobirds is a terrible matchup because the rituals are spirits and they could just shuffle away your Mine and your Amano and completely turn off your deck. In terms of the free matchups, he says things like Mystic Mine, simply because this deck is just better at beating the meta overall, and the Draco spells are absolutely insane. Just destroying the Cauldron over and over again allows you to totally win that one, and they just don't hurt Draco in the slightest. In terms of changes, he says it's very hard to make changes at this point because it was specifically built for this format. If anything, he might cut the Imperial Order and put it in the side deck because it can sometimes hurt if because you have 23 spells in the deck, but it also turns off your Mystic Mine when you want to apply the pressure with it, and it can be a blowout against your opponent when your opponent wants to counteract, so it's a bit of a tough decision, this one. He does want to add in Soul Drain and another There Can Be Only One into the side deck, because it's just another card that really helps versus Salamangreat. If the Lunalight rank up deck completely falls out the format, he'll just cut the Cyclones to the side deck, and if the Spell and Trap Destruction starts getting mained in the future, then he may main Waking the Dragon. Would he play again in the future? Well, he says if Spiral and Heroes continue to be really popular decks, then he'll definitely keep playing it. YuGiOh is fairly expensive at the moment, so he's managed to stay fairly budget, and it worked out pretty well. This version of the deck is, again, very format dependent. He wouldn't have played this deck last format due to how powerful Orcust and Striker were. So if Konami decide to release those decks again, then he's absolutely going to be switching to a different deck. Shoutouts go firstly to his girlfriend and family for all the support. Shout out to Grant for lending him the Waking the Dragon targets. Without them, he probably wouldn't have topped, let alone win. Shoutouts to Martin for running the regional really smoothly. Shoutouts to Team Hobbyvolt, TKB, and UWE TCG Society. So thanks very much, Christian, for coming on and sharing your list. What do you guys think about True Draco in the 2020 format? Are you going to pick it up and give it a go? Let me know what you think. Try out the list right away. It's in the description. You can grab the download link. Copy it into your own dueling book set and you'll be able to play it immediately. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.